Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Sunday live stream where we talk about photography and see how everybody's doing. I'm doing well, thanks. And as always, kind of picked the topic today uh, just before I started the stream, pretty much about an hour ago. And then because I was thinking about, you know, why do people buy cameras to begin with? Let's say you're just using your smartphone now and you kind of like taking pictures, or maybe you're a content creator and you've been using your phone and you want to kind of up your game to a little better quality. And then everyone, let me know in the chat if the video and audio is okay. Just before I get too far. Oh, okay. Jeff already let me know. I appreciate that, Jeff. But yeah, good morning, everyone, and thank you, David, for letting me know the audio is good. Uh, excuse me, my voice is not so great this morning, but yeah. So I'm trying to figure out. Because I saw something on 43 Rumors about market share of the different camera manufacturers, and for 2023, and we're well into 2024 now, but it was Canon first, Sony, then Nikon, then Fuji, uh, then Panasonic, then Olympus, or OM Systems, I should say, then Ricoh, and then I guess everybody else, whoever they might be. And anyhow, so that got me thinking about the camera market in general and its decline, because of the smartphone. So, why do you want a real camera if you don't have one now? If anyone's here that doesn't have like a real camera yet, it might be thinking about upping their game for their content creation or for their pictures, because uh, I'm curious, what makes you wanna buy a new camera? And I was also thinking about the person I talked about a couple of weeks ago that, bought the OM5 with 12 to 45 Pro because it's like $12.99 now, which is a fantastic deal for such a great camera, for exactly what they were gonna use it for, and that is to go out and take some pictures, right, and enjoy photography. But I don't know if people are really buying cameras now for photography. It and this has been going on a while, right? But it feels like the only people really interested in buying cameras now, in any kind of bulk, are people that want to do content creation, I guess, for YouTube and TikTok and maybe Instagram, all the social media. And for whatever reason, excuse me, they're not happy, or they think they're going to get better quality with a real camera, and they want to get into that. And then 6 months later, they end up just going back to their phone, as far as I can tell. Because I was watching a lot of videos about people that bought their first camera. And of course, the audience on YouTube is going to be primarily content creators looking to buy a new camera, or the people that are creating content with their cell phone now are going to be looking for a new camera for better content creation. So so I watched a few that they bought, about a year ago. And now a year later, I tried to see what kind of videos and the quality of their content from when they were using their cell phone up to when they bought whatever their real camera was. And a lot of the times they ended up going back to their cell phone, as far as I can tell, because clearly the quality didn't change. And they're not into camera gear and stuff, so they don't continue making videos and saying, I'm using my Sony or I'm using my Canon, to make this vlog. They're just doing whatever it is they do in their channel. And clearly I can see, 'cause you kinda get an eye for a little better quality content than lesser, iPhone content versus a legit camera. And I can clearly see they're not using that camera they bought. So, uh, but they were so excited when they bought it. right? They were just, you know, beaming with joy that they got this new camera and they can't wait to create more content. And they're going to say, I'm going to start doing this and doing that and doing, and they don't do it. And then I found this to be true even for people that are thinking about just photography, where they go out and buy a real camera and they end up not using it. On my channel, it's mostly because, the Olympus menu systems are, difficult to get used to or difficult to learn. And I don't think they're any more difficult than any other camera system, but, you know, that seems to be the main reason people stop using them is because it's just too much to control. Is they're too complicated compared to just using their phone and using an app, because that's what they've been doing all this time, is they've been using their phone, so they know how to use apps. So going into a camera app is is familiar. So I don't know. I feel like and this also got me thinking about the Panasonic S9 that came out. That was geared towards content creators. But I'm not sure that how it's doing. Maybe it's too early to say if it's going to catch on in the content creation world. But I don't think it's going to make it based on the videos that I saw of people buying their first camera. What they do is they have a budget, 500 bucks, 600 bucks, whatever. And that's what they're going to spend. They may push a little bit more, up to 1,000, if they want to get all the accessories and things. And this kind of bears out in sales data when I look at Amazon. You can just sort sales by bestsellers, and all of the best-selling cameras are pretty much under $1,000, and they're all vlog ready. Uh, and it can be powered via USB-C, it can be used as a webcam. They're, with the exception of like the Canon R100, they all have like flippy screens. And this is where I think, if and this is kind of a tangent, but if OM Systems is going to make a new camera, I think to get any buzz or any momentum, it needs to be content creator ready. And the OM5 is just not that camera because of the USB-C port, which was a huge oversight. Uh, even as a photographer, I think that was a huge oversight. I mean, in practical terms, it doesn't make much difference, right? You charge the battery through the USB-C port, transfer images. That's about all you can do with it anyway, whether it's USB-C or USB 2.0. It's just faster with USB-C. But the difference is, with USB-C, is you can actually power the camera and use the camera at the same time. Uh, so if you want to set it up as a webcam, you can, and then take it out into the field, and you can charge the battery faster. All that good stuff, right? That USB-C offers. So, and that was a huge oversight. But even if it did have that, I don't think that it would have generated much buzz for people that want to buy their first real camera because of the price point. Even at $12.99, it's just way out of the budget of what people are looking to spend on their first real camera. And this is why when you go to bestsellers on Amazon, it's always Canon R50, Canon R100, Sony 6100, Sony 6400, Sony ZV-1, Sony ZV-1F, like all these sub $1,000 cameras. And they're not just selling a little bit. I mean, they're selling like 500 plus in the past month of a particular model, where they're selling 200 or 300 per month of a particular model. And this to me is what people's first cameras are. This is the sense I'm getting, is people that are buying their first camera, their first real camera, are looking for something around the $500 range, plus or minus from there. I even saw some some very unfortunate people that bought like these $100 or less cameras that say they're 4K, 50 megapixels. The little toy cameras that nobody should ever buy. Uh, but yeah, and then even then, when they buy it, a year later, you look at all their videos. They're not using that camera. They're back to their smartphone. So my question really is, why do people buy cameras, right? Are you getting your first real camera? Why are you buying it? And again, the sense I get is you wanna get better quality than what you're getting from your phone. And that is certainly uh, a real thing, right? Real cameras will give you better image quality. But the problem is the you know, you can get great quality from your phone. It's just a matter of learning fundamentals of photography, right? And videography. Lighting is key. Because in all those videos I watch when people are buying their first camera, well, I shouldn't say that, but nobody's buying lighting. They don't even want to buy an external mic. They want to have good audio from the camera directly. They don't want to deal with microphones. Uh, so Uh, but yeah, lighting and microphones are really key. And if you just bought good lighting and a good microphone for your cell phone, and all you're doing is content creation, that's really all you need. And save your money and don't buy a camera. I think in this particular point in the industry, the only people buying cameras like bought the OM1. We're looking for we're already we already have a camera or been shooting for years and years, if not decades. We've already been shooting a long time, so we know what we want when we buy a camera, generally speaking. And of course, gas is part of that, right? It's a huge part of my life, buying cameras because I just like cameras, and I just buy them. But I think for a lot of people that have some control, right? Or are controlled because, they're married. Sorry. You can't just go out and spend $6,000, $10,000 on a camera system, right? Uh, you're going to buy one camera and you'll invest in that system. Uh, I feel like that's where most of the market is for cameras, and that's why it's declined because people don't need to buy their first camera or get a first real camera. And the only people buying cameras are people like us that are really true photography enthusiasts. We enjoy taking pictures. We enjoy the art of photography. We like capturing moments, and of course, we like the better image quality. We like. We also maybe we're a little more creative, where we have some fun, with the camera doing things like, I've been doing this series of the most interesting photographer, and then if you look at the thumbnail of this live stream, that Indiana Jones sort of theme, I'm just having fun. I don't take my photography that seriously, to be honest. I'm just out there having fun, enjoying, trying different things, experimenting. So I would say to you, if you're thinking about getting your first real camera, but honestly, look at getting a ring light, a decent lighting, right? Or if you're vlogging, getting a decent light for vlogging that you can put on top of your camera, just a small LED to give a little bit of fill light, uh, or put on your phone and get a decent microphone, whether it's wired directly into the phone or a wireless setup, where you'll just need a little camera cage. And for like $200, you can get excellent quality from your smartphone if you're doing videography. And if you're doing photography, if you understand the fundamentals of lighting, composition, um, all of those things, right? the art of photography, you can take fantastic images with your smartphone. So getting your first real camera though is definitely a commitment, but don't expect uh, better quality until you learn these other things: lighting, composition, right, storytelling. All of these things are much more important to getting better images, better content, right, or telling better stories and enjoying photography and videography than those other things. The gear just really, it just doesn't matter. Uh, and another popular camera, and it's sold out everywhere. A lot of people are looking at the Canon SX 740 or whatever, and then a Canon G7X or GX G7X, I think. These two cameras are very, very popular with bloggers and content creators, and and unfortunately, it's not. They're hard to get, and they're really and a lot of people buying their first camera, they have no concept of you know getting a good value on a camera. It's like they're looking at like this G7X, and it's like it's a 1-inch sensor camera, if I recall correctly, and they're wanting $850 for it, and it's sold out everywhere. They're looking at the SX 740, very popular, and I'll explain why I think that's the case. Uh, they're wanting $400 for that. That's $100 camera, in my opinion. Uh, Maybe 150 in today's dollars because of inflation, but no way should anybody buy that camera for 400 or $500. It just doesn't make any sense. And this is why I think uh, so Canon has kind of got this reputation, right, that precedes them with first-time camera buyers. Everybody tells them, Canon is the best. Just get Canon. So people are going out looking for their first camera, and they're looking at like what these content creators are making, and it's like the SX740, the G7X. Uh, and the reason and even though these cameras don't really show, they do, but not like number one, but they don't really show as best sellers. They always show as sold out, right? Uh, the reason I say these are selling really well is because when I look at the accessories that sell, because I do my Tuesday shopping vlog or shopping stream. When I'm looking at accessories, the number one selling accessory is usually the batteries for the Canon SX740 or the GA7X, like batteries for these cameras. And I'm like, okay, so and I'll see like 500 plus sales of this batteries for that camera. So people are buying the crap out of those cameras, uh, thinking it's their first real camera when their smartphone will actually probably do a better job than either of those. Uh, all the accessories, it comes down to batteries. When I see the battery for a particular camera model selling, like number one by far, uh, that tells me people are using those cameras. And and so I I I just want to tell you, for those of you that may be watching this because you're thinking about getting your first camera, think about lighting and your audio, the microphones, getting maybe a small cage for your smartphone, and you'll go much, much further with that rather than spending, 500, $1,000 on a camera system that a year later, from what I can tell, you're not going to be using anyway, right? So that's my advice about getting a first camera is don't get a camera, get that. Now, if you are into photography, you enjoy taking pictures, you like the art of photography, and you want to capture the moments in your life that are in higher quality, and that's the reason I got into photography. I started like 10 years ago or so. I got into photography because of my dogs. I just didn't have good pictures of my dogs when they passed away. So I said, going forward, dogs are a big part of my life. I want to capture those moments, capture pictures of my dog and me and our adventures, and I want to have a good quality, right? Because up to that point, I'd been using point and shoots or even a cell phone, uh, such as they were back in 2012. And being kind of a nerdy, techie guy, I was able to dive into uh, using the camera and all of its features and all of that. And another camera that I think a lot of first-time buyers are looking at is like the Sony ZV-1 and ZV-1F, and that really offers, without a microphone, pretty decent audio, decent image quality, great autofocusing, of course, the flippy screen. They also have the little crater tripod thing. That's very, very popular as a first-time purchase. And the price point is like 600 bucks or something, right? You get the creator kit, maybe 800. So it's a little bit on the higher end. But you can get like the ZV-1F for $400. I mean, it's not expensive. And this seems to be where a lot of first-time camera buyers are at, right? 500 bucks plus or minus from there, but definitely under 1,000. And that camera, I looked at that camera myself before getting the LX100 because I wanted a small, compact, everyday camera, and ultimately I decided against it because of the lack of the EVF. And as a photographer enthusiast, I got to have an EVF. So if you're one of those like myself, where you're trying to capture, your life, right, with your family, your pets, whatever, your adventures, right, when you travel, an EVF is, I think, mandatory. I just would not recommend a camera without an EVF, uh, because it really helps you to compose the image, um, particularly in bright sunlight. That's the biggest advantage. But also, uh, when you put your eye up to the EVF, it takes everything else out of your field of view, and you only see what the camera sees, and that's where you can really concentrate on the craft of composition and telling stories and all of that. I just can't do it like this, right? With like you would with a phone. And that's why I just never use my phone for anything other than documenting receipts and business cards, just very practical things. I never use it for like photography or capturing moments because I carry a camera with me everywhere. Um, so I don't know if I started the conversation in the spirit of what I put the thumbnail up to. Um, but yeah, I think as your first camera, you really, I think if you're an enthusiast or more into the photography side and capturing those moments in your life and adventures, everything I talked about, I think the OM5 is perfect. It's perfect. If you're a content creator, don't buy a camera. Just get good lighting and a microphone for your cell phone, and you'll be fine. Okay, you don't need a real camera. Uh, it's not going to improve your content or the quality of the content really in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it'll make it more difficult for you because you have to use an SD card, load that onto your computer, edit it, all of that stuff. Whereas on a phone, you can do everything right on the phone. You can record the content, edit it right there, post it, bang, you're done. Uh, so content creators, I just don't see the need for something like the Lumix S9. It just doesn't make any sense to me for content creators. Even at $1,500, that's well above the budget of most content creators that are doing, TikTok or YouTube, what have you. So those are my thoughts, right? If you're an enthusiast, definitely something like the OM5, perfect. If you're a content creator, you know, something like the just your cell phone with lighting and mic, and you're good, you're all set. So let me know in the chat what you think. Those are kind of the summaries or my summation of what I think about getting your first camera. It's just not for everyone, and that's why the market I think is just basically for people like us that really are hardcore enthusiasts, hobbyists. The professional market is always going to be there. It's not going away. People are going to need professional photography. I lined up 3 jobs this week, uh, which I undercharged for. I should have charged more, but I figure if I can make like $800 for a day's shoot, that's decent. But I should probably charge more because my work is pretty good actually. Uh, anyhow, the professional market is always going to be there, and if I feel like a lot of the content on YouTube that we watch, that are viewers of my channel, we're looking for higher dynamic range, maybe more megapixels, maybe more features, more computational. We get into all of the fine print of the camera um, when we talk about gear, or we are more into the craft of photography, right? Uh, Talking about composition, and tips for shooting different genres of photography, how to do sunsets, how to do street photography, landscapes, wildlife, birds in flight, that kind of thing. So we're all into that. And that's where I think the bulk of the market is with respect to the camera market, is people like us. But we're a finite group, right? We're not going to grow the camera industry by ourselves. We really need uh, people that need to get that want to get into photography and then have them stick with it, right? Not like all these people I saw buying their first camera, then a year later they're not using it. So I think I talked about this last week. What's the next camera? I would love a Pen F2, but I think I'm a very finite market. Everybody like me, and there's a lot of you out there, would love it. Take my money, right? But I don't know if that's going to help the camera market in general, cameras like that. Uh, I think a camera, if they can come out with like an OM10 that has USB-C, which is pretty much going to have to, that can be powered and used as a webcam right out of the box, and then has great microphones and a mic jack. That camera, and then price it around $600, right? Maybe 700 with the lens. I think they'll have a pretty good hit on their hands and make it really nice looking. The cameras are pretty nice looking anyway, but maybe give it a little more flair, right? Uh, I feel like that's where it needs to be. Maybe a new pen camera, uh, something like that. That would be a great first camera for many people. Because what was really nice about the pen cameras and the OM10 camera was Uh, there's no limit to what you can do with that. You can take your photography as far as you want to go with either of those cameras, really. But the Pen series, for the most part, was lacking any kind of webcam utility, um, and it it just was not. They need to put USB-C in there so they can just plug in webcam and then go out and vlog. So it needs a flippy screen. So the OM10, they need to have the screen come out the other way, like on the OM5. Flipping down like that, people are going to be like, how do I put my tripod on then? Right? Because tripods with the vloggers are very popular. But then for people that are buying the camera, looking at it from a photography standpoint, they can they can take it as far as they want to go. Get rid of the stupid restrictions that you put on the Mark III and the Mark IV. They got rid of the ability to get a clean HDMI output. I think that'll be resolved with a USB-C port, but still a clean HDMI out for very high quality, so that again you don't have that limitation later. You might start out using the USB-C, right, and using it as a webcam, but you'll get much better quality if you do straight HDMI out. And that's true for any digital camera that you have that's out on the market right now. Nobody that wants the best quality out of their camera is going to use the USB-C port. But if you just want quick and dirty webcam, it works fine for that. And it will be better than a real, legit webcam. But uh, that's that's where it needs to go. And of course, simplify the menus. And that's where they need to go. And that's where Sony's at, and Canon with the R50 and the ZV-1. Uh, it can be a fixed lens camera from OM Systems. That would be interesting, right? They have the TG7, but TG7 doesn't have webcam ability, clean HDMI out. It just is a little bit limited. And I understand it's a different kind of camera, but man, it's just simple little things, I think, would make a small camera that could be a great first camera. People getting their first camera that can do everything with no limits to what they can do with it, right? You gotta phase detect autofocus, obviously. All the technical things that all of us here know need to happen to make that camera, work well. But it's the little things, right? It's the little things uh, that would just make it, I think, a really attractive option for all kinds of photographers, whether you're an enthusiast photographer wanting to capture moments in your life, or if you want to be a content creator. A new OM10 at a $600 or $700 price point, I think, would get a lot of people into the system. And I like I said, I would rather see that than a Pen F2, to be honest, for the sake of the camera market and OM systems in general. That's just what I think. So let me go to the chat and see who's here. I see a lot of people here. This is awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. It's great to see everyone. Let's see where my chat window. Wow, there's 100 messages here already. But I'll go up here to the top. Zoltan, always good to see you. Roger, good to see you. Darko. And Darko says, a real camera dilemma. We work with what we have, but today's tech is outstanding. We have choices of great cameras, price points as well. For me, the Z50 is the baby D500. Yeah, Nikon has that Z30, but no EVF. And the Z50 is great. Sub $1,000 camera. I mean and I think that has a mic jack and clean HDMI out. That's really a great choice, and that's where OM Systems needs to be, is in that area. Now I don't know how well the Z50 is selling, right, relative to these other cameras, but there's just I didn't see anybody say their first camera was a Nikon. Every time I saw these, I bought my first camera video. Aside from like the typical content creator, right, that are heavy into cameras. Uh, Most of the first camera buyers, they were buying a Canon or they were buying a Sony, like ZV-1 or ZV-10, right, or Z10 or whatever that thing is. They were buying these very small entry level cameras. Yeah, the answer is simple: Panasonic. I love Panasonic, actually. I I got so many Panasonic S1Rs in my watch list now on eBay. In fact, I might have to jump off the stream and go bid on one. Maybe we can do that together. Um, good morning, Wayne. Good to see you. Marsha, always good to see you in Florida. Man, it's getting cold. I got up this morning, it was 55 degrees out, Fahrenheit, of course. But you see, I'm wearing a t-shirt today. This is the first day of the year since, summer that I've had to wear a t-shirt because it's freaking cold. Fortunately, this room is warming up because of all the lights and everything, but um and Robin says, "Good morning, everyone. As someone who has used anything from an 8x10 to an Minox B, what makes the camera real?" Okay, well, let me define that. Not your smartphone. Of course, smartphones are real cameras, right? But I'm talking about a device that's dedicated to only taking pictures. So that's what I mean by real camera. Uh, Something that only used for taking pictures and really doesn't do anything else. Pictures and video, that is. So that can be the piece of crap $30 camera that I have. You got to see this thing. I think Jimmy Chang, at Red 35 did a video on he bought the cheapest camera. I have one too. This is a 64 megapixel. Believe it or not, this is like this or some variation of it is the number one selling camera on Amazon right now here in the US. Number one, by far, like thousands and thousands sold in the last 30 days. Because these sell for like typically $50. If you're shopping around and looking, you can get these for about $30. And I have some of these on my Flickr page, some images from this, but it's not really 64 megapixels. It's basically, I think it's like a tiny, tiny chip, like it's a 1/3, 1/1.3. It's like super tiny, or 1/1. I'm sorry, 1/3.2, or one over some tiny, tiny sensor. And I'm guessing it's around 10 megapixels in reality. S- And and so it's upscaling to 64 megapixels. Because I put this up on my test chart and I took pictures in all the different settings, right? Between like 2 megapixels and 64 megapixels. And it was right around 10 megapixels. I couldn't see any difference. Hold on one second. I need to get the phone. Sorry, it's my mom. So I can't not answer a phone from my mom because she's like 80 years old, so you never know. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm busy though. Well, no, yeah, I'll go over there when I'm done. I'm right in the middle of it, online right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll do it. Yeah, I know. In the driveway, things like. I'll look around. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Anyhow, what the heck was I talking about? Let me go back to the chat here. Brian Phillips, good to see you. Paul, always good to see you. Wayne, let's see. In California. Oh, I didn't realize you're in California. Um, and Jen says, should find a new hobby. Have been dancing for 15 years and going deaf. Current camera should last the rest of my life. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Jan. Or Jan, I'm not sure. That's rough, man, to lose your hearing. I mean, to lose any of your senses, right? It's not. It's an adjustment. And Robin Wong is here. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Robin's always been so supportive coming into the streams. And Robin says, nothing replaces a real shutter sound, something so satisfying with every click, right? I know a lot of us, we really enjoy sort of the tactile experience of using a camera. And, uh, there's all kinds of videos about the shutter sound of the camera, right? Oh, I was showing off this. Okay, so that reminds. I was showing off this thing. Yeah, this is crap. This is the Canon. This is selling for like $200 or $300. I paid like $100 for this camera a few years ago. But it's basically sorry, this generic camera that I paid $30 for is an imitation of this Canon. If you kind of look at it, it's really close. Uh, just the image quality, there's a humongous difference between the two. Because this is JPEG. They're both JPEG only, but this is like a dirty, dirty, dirty 10 megapixel, very mushy, bad details, even with great lighting. It's basically a kid's camera, something you give to a kid and just, uh, it's a throwaway camera. It feels like if I dropped it once, it would break apart. I actually took this apart. But this is actually probably the first real camera a lot of people get based on the sales that I see for this thing. And it's no wonder people are ditching, like, why would I buy a real camera? I bought this one and it was crap. My phone is better. I guess there's something kind of fun about using this where it only takes pictures, but okay, System Natura. Walter's here. How you doing, buddy? I'm sorry I didn't reply to your text, Walter. He texted me about my image saying that I made Olympus to be like the holy grail of cameras when I was doing the swap. That was pretty funny. And Chillster, oh, you bought a 7200. Very, very good camera. Excellent camera. I used to have the D7100, which I really, really liked. And when I replaced it with a D750, only because I broke my D7100. But I did consider a D7200 at the same time. And the key the key the key thing about the 7200 was it had a deeper buffer for action type shots where you're taking several frames at once. That was a significant improvement. There's also some sensor improvement. They changed to a Sony sensor. I think the one in the 7100 was a Toshiba sensor, so that in the shadow areas there was less banding. Uh, but overall, that the 7200 is excellent camera, and you can do everything with that. Uh, and it's relatively compact camera. A really good lens you should get for it if you haven't already. I, Oops, I have it on my DF. You will not regret. I bought mine on eBay, $184 delivered, right? Taxes, everything. in mint condition. This is the 24 to 85 AFS-G with VR. You want to make sure you get the VR version that has the image stabilization built in, because your camera, the D7200, doesn't have image stabilization, so you need to get it in the lens. And this lens is so good, and it's very, very versatile. It's an f3.5 to f4.5. Technically, the 24 to 105 f4 is a sharper lens, you know, in the shorter end, like up to 70 millimeters. But it's much bigger and heavier. This lens, trust me, you're not going to be able to tell a difference between this and this 24 to, I think it's the 24 to 105, and it's cheap and has image stabilization, and the image quality from this lens is fabulous. So that is a lens I recommend you get. You can find them on eBay pretty cheap. If you pay around $200, that's a fair price. If you pay more than 200, that thing better be brand new in the box. Okay, but around $200, you can get one in excellent condition. I had to order the lens hood separately for mine, so add $10, so $194 with the lens hood, because it was missing the lens hood on this. But this was the cleanest one. You know, I really pixel peep the images for every auction that I go to on eBay. Okay, but I'm really loving this setup. This is the Nikon DF with the 24 to 85, and it's, you know, it's not a small camera, but it's not huge, right? It's not unwieldy. Uh, I can definitely get by with that. USB port on my G9 Mark II allows me to connect and record to an external. Wow, nice. Yeah, I think I saw that in when I was watching the videos. And Walter asked, do people keep using the phone for convenience? Yeah, definitely being able to share the photos. That is a huge, huge difference. So that the convenience of sharing the images right away and uploading them to TikTok and Instagram for your videos, being able to edit the videos on your phone right away and add special effects, and you can do so much on a phone. It's crazy. So that's why I don't understand why content creators really need much more than their phone. What they should be investing in is better lighting and audio. Uh, those fake 4K high-res plastic lens craps are such junk. I would buy used A100 Sony. Yeah, exactly. But people don't know any better. I saw a few people that said, you know, something like this was because this comes in a lot of varieties. These come in like X100F, like Fuji lookalikes. It comes in, but it's basically the same piece of crap. There's actually a lead weight inside this camera to make it a little heavier. I mean, lead, they not lead, but some kind of weight inside, right? To make this camera feel heavier than it actually is. It's hilarious. Camera manufacturers are constantly trying to reduce weight of their camera, and this piece of crap, they're actually trying to make it feel heavier, like it's a more expensive camera than it is. Um, but yeah, I think Walter's point about convenience is why a lot of people, even though they bought a real camera, they go back to using their phone, right? The content creators. I watched one person, they took the camera out of the box and they're like, why didn't it turn on? And then they cut over to like 10 minutes later and they're like, I got to put a battery in it. And then they said, oh, now I need to get a memory card. It's like, it's so different than using a phone, right? Because the phone has the battery built in and memory built in, right? But you get a camera, you have to put the battery in and the memory card separately. That by itself is like a huge difference between the two for a lot of people. They just don't get it. And then I watched another person, they spent they spent a whole day trying to set up the camera. to use. Uh, they were excited, so they didn't mind spending all that time trying to get all the settings right. But uh, I'm not sure if I watched their later videos to see if they were still they didn't have anything else published after that. They bought their camera and then they stopped uploading. Like, okay. Uh, Buying used makes sense when you first start out, definitely. Where a lot of people go though is they go to Walmart first, right? And when you go to Walmart, they got like 3 or 4 cameras there. Canon T7 for 499 with a lens, right? And and some GoPros. That's about it. They don't got jack over there for cameras, so they go to Best Buy. And of course, when you go to Best Buy, they end up getting the Sony ZV-1 or the 1F because it's a content creator type thing. Yeah, exactly. What I mentioned. Uh, and Eric says, I think manufacturers follow the phone industry. An i15 Pro Max is 800 to over 1,000, for example. They want to match that, if not slightly go over the price for a standard camera. That's an interesting point of view. I don't know if smartphones are trying to compete with camera sales because there's no comparison in terms of sales. I mean, it's like billions of phones. Or I don't know if it's billions, but it's like you could put all the camera sales lumped together into a little thimble next to like a 55-gallon bucket of cell phones. So I think they're more competing with each other and not actual real cameras. And light tubes are great. Yep, that's a good brand, definitely. Unfortunately, any microphone will pick up any sound in the vicinity unless you use a long shotgun mic with a dead cat cover. Yes. But I'm thinking of like these lav mics, right? When you have a lav mic within the proximity of the source, in this case, my mouth, uh, you pretty much drown out everything else around you, right? Because I'm the loudest thing next to the mic. And then the cameras have these auto leveling. So it reduces the gain quite a bit so that my voice doesn't clip. Oh, you know all this, right? I know you're a uh, professional photographer, if not hardcore enthusiast, particularly on the audio side. If I recall, we've had conversations about hi-fi equipment and you were a sound engineer or something, I guess. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, these are omnidirectional mics, meaning it picks up sound from everywhere. But one of the keys to good audio is making sure that the mic is in close proximity to the source, and that will improve the audio. So, like, for example, if I'm holding the mic out here, like at arm's length, right away, it's probably a lot different in the sound. Even though the levels are about the same, you're not picking up more of maybe some of the ambient sound in the room. Versus if I put it right up to my mouth, the audio level is a little bit higher, but then my voice is probably a lot clearer, right? So you have to kind of find a happy medium of because it's not practical. Although I've seen people just talk like this in their videos, right? This is a little more practical. Now my hands are free and uh, proximity of the microphone is right there. Because I guarantee you guys let me know in the comments how this sounds. If this sounds really good when I put this, and this is like a cheap. This is like a $5 microphone. um, but I'm sure this sounds a lot better than even when I put it right here, right? Versus this is definitely the worst sounding. And it's pretty quiet in my room right now too. But this is going to be a lot more echoey because now it's picking up sound bouncing off the walls and everywhere else. So short lesson on audio. Even though I'm like the last person you should ask about getting good quality audio, I at least have that much correct, I think. Hey guys, I still have my Canon Rebel XT with a couple lenses. What a cheap price body should I buy as an upgrade to still mess around with the system? Oh, okay, Canon T7. Yeah, the Canon T7 you can buy for about 300 bucks on eBay, used in good condition, if not mint. And it has RAW capability, which the XT, your Rebel XT, does not. But even if you're not going to shoot RAW, uh, it has a much better sensor. I believe it's a 24 megapixel sensor, great color science, Canon T7, and you can use all your lenses from your XT with that. There's also a T7i that has the flippy screen. That's even better. And then of course you can get carried away, you get a 5D Mark IV, right? Uh, if you want top of the line, 5D Mark IV, I think you can get for like 3,000 or less right now. Uh, or Wayne, I see Wayne just suggested a 5D Classic. Any of the Canon 5D, the Canon 6D. Canon 6D is an excellent camera, around 600 bucks, I think. Uh, that's a nice full frame camera if you want to go big, right? But if you want to stay small, like in the spirit of the Canon Rebel X T that you have, the Canon T7 makes the most sense. If you want to go full frame, Canon 6D, really nice camera. Uh, I think the 5D is a little bit long in the tooth in terms of features. I think at least with the Canon 6D, you do get much better autofocus and some other things. I can't remember now. It's been too long since I've looked at a Canon 6D. Um, and if you want to stay in the APS-C world, the Canon 7D Mark II. It's kind of expensive, but the Canon 7D Mark II, the Canon I believe it's the 9. That's about $1,000, and that's an APS-C, so you'll get the equivalent focal lengths. So if you have APS-C lenses, uh, going 5D or 6D would be a problem. So you probably want to go Canon 7D if you want to go full frame. If you want to do APS-C, the 7D or 7D Mark II, I think either one. Just get the 7D; it's a lot cheaper. Uh, and if you want to get brand new, very cheap, 200, 300 bucks, the Canon T7. Um, and that actually would be a pretty nice upgrade to your Rebel XT. And then Walter says people spend over 1,000 US on a smartphone, but not a camera. Why? Well, clearly, because a phone is very, it does a lot more than just take pictures, right? I don't know anybody that buys a phone just to take pictures. They're buying the phone because, they can text and make phone calls, do social media, which would include, photos, right? Photos and video. So yeah, it's a lot more versatile. And most of the time, people aren't paying $1,000 for a phone. They're getting them as upgrades for free or for a small cost. They're selling their old phone and getting a lot back for it. Particularly if you're an Apple user, they do pay pretty good penny for trade-ins typically. So it's not like it's out of pocket $1,000 like a camera would be, right? So that's why. Yeah, Wayne. So Wayne's saying the same thing. People are buying phones over time on a cell plan. Yeah, and the upgrades are easy. Unless they say shutter sound is not important to me, but I find a real camera has way better usability and controls than mobile phones. I admit that photo quality in present mobile phone is good. Exactly. It's about the ergonomics of shooting with a real camera. Generally, are going to be superior to that of a cell phone. Uh, Also, you can't watch Rob Trick on a camera. Okay, that is true. You can actually uh, point your camera at a screen while you're watching my live stream. You can watch me through the camera that's watching it on a live stream. And Canon segment its entry in Pro too far, in my opinion. Their kit lens quality is very poor, while their Pro is one of the best. Yeah, it's a pretty big gap, right? Like, where's that mid range? I mean, I would argue that their kit lenses really aren't that bad. Certainly better than a cell phone in any scenario. But to come out with a kit lens that starts at, I don't know, golly. Let me look at their kit lens. I was like shocked. Canon RF um, kit. This is a good lens. F4. Yeah, so this comes with a f4.5 to 6.3. I'm tempted to buy this camera, $399. Well, anyway, uh, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's not like Olympus and OM Systems, where I know all of their lenses are really, really good. From their kit lenses all the way up to their Pro line, they're just really good. Uh, I've never been, I don't own every lens. There's some lenses that people say aren't that great, but the ones that I have, they're all like the difference between my best lens and my cheapest lens, very small difference. Usually it's just in the aperture, but in terms of image quality, they're all really, really good. And Darko says for stills, use natural light to start, but add cheap one light softbox to try your hand at lighting. Just add a reflector. Yep. I mean, your first accessory. I always have a tough time telling people get a tripod or get a flash. Both are really, really necessary. I would probably lean get a tripod, but you really need both. You can get a tripod and a flash for less than $100 combined. Okay. If you shop with me on Tuesdays, I can show you deals where you can get a flash and a tripod cheap, uh, less than $100. And then when you're ready to upgrade, you can throw those things away, right? Because those are throwaway prices and gear when they break down or just are not of use anymore. But or give away to someone else, right? But yeah, and your photography will immensely improve, or you can drastically expand the kind of photography that you can do with a tripod and a flash for under $100. I should do a whole video on that because it's like it, it's one of the things in photography that I think just get overlooked so much. People focus so much energy on the gear, on the camera and lens, and they don't think about a tripod and a flash, right? And Marcia says most people don't want to spend the time necessary to learn the process of the camera, nonetheless creating an image. Yeah, it's frustrating, right? I think that's the other part of the problem with the younger generation is they don't have the patience um, or discipline to learn to use a camera, for example. Uh, Many of them do. They're very excited and they want to do it. But the typical person, when they go out to buy something, they get excited and want to use it, and then they find out that to use it and get best results from it, takes quite a bit of effort. And that's what I'm saying. If you're if you learn the basic fundamentals of photography and you can practice with your cell phone, because a lot of cell phones allow some manual control, uh, then maybe buy a real camera, right? Once you've mastered your cell phone, because all the principles will apply to a real camera just as it does a smartphone. And Linda Marks says the G7Xi and the ESP2 had several viral YouTube videos, and I'm sure TikTok hype videos, which is why secondhand prices are insane. It's insane. I remember looking at the G7X Mark II, I think it was, when it was brand new. And I was pretty impressed with it. I was like, well, this is not bad. Uh, but ultimately, I was like, I have a Pen PL8. It's pretty much the same thing, if not better, than a G7X. Also depends on what you want to shoot. Birds are no good on a cell phone. Absolutely. Yeah, there's certainly genres, right, of photography where, like sports action, you're doing sporting events, you're doing birding, wildlife. Yeah, cell phones suck at that. They suck at most things, to be honest. And it takes quite a bit of workarounds to get really good image quality when conditions are not ideal. Under ideal conditions, lighting's good, you know what you're doing, you can get great images. But when things get a little tricky, backlit subjects, sports action, these things get very, very, very hard to do on a cell phone without a ton of workarounds and tricks, right? And even then, it'll never be as good as a legit camera. And everyone is a photographer because they have a mobile phone. Yep. So just because it's not a real camera doesn't mean you're not a photographer, right? As I said last week, photography and gear are two separate subjects. The Z50 straight out camera video is great for occasional vid shooter. Yeah, I would say most cameras that are out now, uh, even my old EM10 Mark II. Let's see if it's working today. Haha, it's working, but it is on its way out. Um, what I can't figure out is I can't get the colors to match between this and my EM5. I got them both set to natural color profile. I got to figure that out. The white balance is fixed. I don't know why the color's so different. There are different lenses on them, but I've swapped lenses and it didn't make any difference. The struggle is real. I'm telling you. And the cell phone killed the Instamatic market, but for those who want better images, the minority good cameras are still available. That's always been a small market. Yeah, since the cell phone, definitely cameras are a small market, right? I mean, I think they're less than 20% of what they were just a few years ago. And I captured three bees tumbling on a car bonnet. It's on here. It's on here. Thought it was two, but in slow motion, you have to see. Yeah, it's always fun when you find something new in an image that you didn't intend to capture, but then you look and you're like, "Oh, look at that! How did I get that?" Uh, that's always a lot of fun, and it hasn't really happened to me, but I know my sister took a picture and they captured some kind of supernatural thing in their photo that was not there when they were looking at it. They were taking a picture of their kid, uh, and when they looked at the image, there was like this really weird shaped orb right next to them. And it wasn't like lens flare, okay? Because I looked at the picture. This is not lens flare. There was an orb there, and it had very distinct lines coming out, like in a hexagonal shape, uh, with a red ring. It wasn't like a UFO, so to speak. Like it didn't look man-made, It was that because it was semi-transparent at the same time. It's a really weird orb in the thing. Anyway, uh, I should have asked her for a copy of that picture so I could share it. She took that like 10 years ago, but it was weird. And Eric says, I find myself using back screen 95% of the time for macro. I end up shooting insects. I end up spooking insects with this big noggin. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, for macro, a lot of times being on a tripod is best, right? So in that case, you would be using most likely the back screen anyway. And even if you're not using a tripod and hand holding, yeah, holding the camera out and being able to move it back and forth without getting real close. So what you need is, well, you have it. You have the 90 macro. So you should have a pretty decent working distance anyway. I'm surprised that you would still have problems like that. And Marco's here. Hey, Marco, how's it going? Good to see you. And what kind of photography? Oh, it's primarily architectural and event photography. So most of my work, I go out and I take pictures of commercial properties and do video. And then during Christmas and holidays, I gotta move my leg. I'm getting a little arthritis in my hip or something. Uh, during the holidays, I'll do Christmas parties and things. I haven't really done any. I've done a couple other events, but generally it's Christmas parties, right? In the winter. But the main thing is commercial properties. So I'm going to be doing. I think it's. I forget what kind of business it is. And this is actually the first time the client asked me for some cell phone pictures. I'm not sure what he wants to use them for. I'm 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 not going to use a cell phone to take pictures. But that surprised me a little bit that they cared so little about the image quality. Maybe they don't understand the difference. But I know he does because this is a new client that I'm getting. That was referred to me by one of my other clients. So I know he has seen the work that I do, right? And the kind of quality I deliver. I'm not maybe he doesn't understand that, you can't just do that with a cell phone, the things that I do. I was really surprised. I mean, of course, I'm going to deliver all the typical images that I deliver for a property, but he said, can you take some pictures of the showcasings and some of the product? I can't remember some of the products inside the showcase, so they don't have to be good. Just you can use your cell phone. I'm like, why pay me to do that, right? Just ask the owner of the property to take pictures with their cell phone. I I don't get it. Or maybe they understand that, I mean, it could go either way. Maybe they understand that a professional photographer can get very good results with a cell phone and they just want something quick, right? So that's why he will pay me to use a cell phone to take a picture. I just I'm not sure exactly, but I will take a nice picture. I'll probably bring like some LED lighting so that I can use the cell phone, take a nice picture and send it to him like this, or just use my app on my phone, the OM Share app, and transfer the images from my camera to my phone and send them to him because I think he wants them right away when I'm on site for those pictures. I'll have to clarify that before I go on the job. But yeah, I was a little surprised by that request, saying get some pictures of the showcase with these products, and I can just use my cell phone if I want. I was like, why? Why would I? and that just took me by surprise a little bit. Anyhow, that's what I do. Commercial properties. Let me see. I can show you one. Oh, this was a residential, but I rarely do residential. I'm just scanning through. I have to show you a picture that is not. I have to show you a generic one because the clients are. Okay, this one's okay. This one I can show. Uh, the reason I say that is because uh, everybody that works there is aware that this property is for sale. But this is just one of the garages, or uh, I my vocabulary is so bad. You'd think I know what to call all these things. But yeah, so I take pictures of the property at various angles, right? Uh, and this place was a mess, but this is kind of what I do, right? Just commercial properties and businesses, things like that. These I can show because they're on a website. So nothing special, right? But that'll give you some idea of what I do for the bulk of my stuff. Um, and undersell yourself, I do it too, but fair price gets your name about with any kind of work. Yeah, I I should have charged more. Ugh, next year, next year or next new client. Because each client, I raise the price, right? Uh, your first clients, you give them a deal. Sometimes you shoot for free your first few clients to build up your skill set. And then when they start referring people, you charge a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. So, uh, yeah, uh, the event I undercharged for, I charged $500 to do 2 hours. That's a little bit too little, and it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple thing. I should have charged more though. Ugh. I had a price in my mind to charge, but I had shot for this person before, and I didn't charge anything. It was a charity event, so I did it for free. And then they called. Well, anyway, don't come to me for business advice because it's terrible. If I was any good at business, I'd be doing really well right now, but I'm always poor. Uh, but I think my photography is pretty decent, at least for the stuff that I deliver. My personal stuff is okay, you know. I would call that my personal photography competent. Like I can get the shot that I want. Doesn't mean the shot's any good. And then Jaron says, there's a used EM1 Mark III and PenF, each with a shutter count of 62 and 1700 respectively, selling for the same price. I would like to get a second camera, upgrade my EM10 Mark IV. Uh, and then it continues, mostly landscape architecture. Which one you reckon I should get? Oh, the EM1 Mark III with 62,000 is a lot of pictures. Um, but that price is about right, I think. Okay, so shutter count aside, EM1 Mark III all day long for landscape, right? What was the other thing you said you do? Landscape, architecture. Um, I think you're going to get better results with the EM1 Mark III than the Pen F. Primarily because the the autofocus is way better, and not that that's as important. You can autofocus with the Pen F for landscape and architecture, no problem. But I have found times where the Pen F struggles a little bit sometimes in getting the right, when I went, because usually architecture and landscape, you need a really high degree of precision for your autofocus. There's depth of field, so you shoot at f8 and all of that, but every little bit makes a difference. And image stabilization is better on the M1 Mark III. So if you're doing handheld type architecture landscape, you're going to get much better images. The high-res shot mode is much better on the EM1 Mark III, meaning um, the processing is fast, and I believe it also has handheld high-res shot mode, which is really, really useful. So the only thing that gives me a little pause is at 62,000 shutter count. That's a lot of handling of the camera. I would say I would say pay a little more and get an EM1 Mark III with less uh, shutter count, like something in the 10 to 15,000 range, or less if you can. So you might have to spend about $900, but that would be the way to go. The Pen F is great if you're a JPEG shooter. I would say the J, I you know the Pen F, I don't consider it an upgrade camera. The Pen F is more of like a second camera. It's a boutique camera. It's fun to use, and it's certainly capable and can do everything that you want it to do. But if you're serious about your photography, I feel like the M1 Mark III is going to be much more versatile and a much, much bigger upgrade to your EM10 Mark IV. Uh, so I would say if these are your only two choices, I would still get the M1 Mark III. If these are your only two choices. But I would strongly recommend getting one with less than 62,000. That's a lot. That's a lot of pictures. Uh, it's certainly within the range of the shutter life of the rated shutter life. I think is like 400,000. I mean, you're not going to wear out the shutter on an EM1 Mark III, but when somebody has 62,000 clicks on it, that's a lot of handling of the camera. And I would I would definitely try and find one with less. Even if you have to pay a little more, I would go about $900 and see if you can find one with less than half that. As close to 10,000 or as close to zero as you can get. That's what I would do. Okay, and then System Natura says, after buying my first camera, I never looked back and currently have five. Yeah, I tell you, I'm with you. As you can see, all this stuff around me. And I got 4 or 5 cameras sitting out in my studio right now because I'm doing stuff over there. And Liston Hines says, I recently sent this year's summer photos to get developed, received them in the mailbox the other day. Having physical photos in your hand is different viewing experience than on my iPad. Absolutely. It's the whole process, right? Taking the picture and then the anticipation of waiting for them to come back, and then the satisfaction reward you get for the good images. Um, certainly, certainly a lot to that. I like to develop them myself, but it's the same experience, right? Um, that anticipation of waiting to see how they come out. And Verma says, I want a real camera because all those photos of Dang Oh, Bigfoot on my cell phone are too blurry. I know, right? Um, oops, I saw that. And Gordon says a great camera for content creators is the Osmo Pocket 3. Really is overall and decent quality on auto normal, well under 1,000. Not a camera, but handy for video. True. Uh, I just find the gimbal part of it a little risky for a lot of people because that it's easy to break. If you drop it on its head and break the gimbal, yeah, that's a problem. I mean, dropping any camera is a problem, but a gimbal is particularly susceptible to damage. I mean, I have a DJI Pocket 1, the original, and it's great, but I ended up stop using it for vlogging, uh, for a myriad of issues that the Osmo Pocket 3 would solve. Even the Osmo Pocket 2 would solve a lot of the problems I'm having to do with, like, using external mics, battery power, but a lot of these things are getting resolved, uh, with upgrades. But I found the image quality from even the Pocket 1 version is fine. It's just not quite wide enough, and I think that's what the DJI Pocket 2 and the Pocket 3 fix, right? They're wider angle. My DJI Pocket 1, it was the field of view was a problem. Using an external mic, you have to have that adapter, was kind of an issue. And I did rig up like a wireless mic through the adapter, and it's just a very awkward setup. It's not like just pick up and go. It's like I have to make an effort basically to get that to work exactly the way I want it. Um, but the Pocket 2 and the Pocket 3, now they have the all-in-one solution, right? Where the wireless mic is built into the thing, and you just have to put on the wireless receiver onto your lapel or something. But I don't vlog that much, so I don't want to drop $500 on something that I'm not going to use that much or however much it is. I think a slightly bigger G100 made of metal, IBIS, USB-C, and a working phone app, $700 or less. I think that'd be a hit across several. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what the OM10 should be because it has IBIS. They can make it metal. I don't think it has to be metal. Uh, I think metal would be nice in the OM5, but the OM10, I don't think needs to be metal. And Linda says, sorry, but I want a flippy screen. I don't care for video features. I get your point about getting new folks into cameras, but if they don't offer photocentric cams, people like me will go to other systems. Um, well, that's true. Uh, so flip meaning you don't want it to fully articulate around and flip around. You want it to just tilt, right? And that's what I'm making an assumption here. But I think a good compromise is the way uh, Fuji does it, right? Where it's tilt, but it also tilts horizontally so that you can hold the camera this way but still see the screen. Because I've had times when I'm using the tilt only screen where it just tilts up and down, but I want to take a shot vertically, right? And it's hard to see the screen because it doesn't tilt out. So this is where Fuji has made a great was great that you could tilt it up. The Panasonic S1R does that too, which I really like. Um, That would be a nice compromise, I think. Well, that's not a compromise. That if I was gonna get a tilt-only screen, I would want it to do like the Fuji does as well. And weather sealing. Yeah, that's a much bigger deal than I thought it would be. I mean, it doesn't rain here much, right, where I live, but there's places where it's like raining all the time and people want weather sealing. But it's never been a deal breaker for me, whether it's weather sealed or not. There's also a used EM1 Mark II selling for 580. I'm confused which one I should get. Get the Mark III. Get the Mark III because the Mark III has better face detect autofocus. Because, like you said, this is an upgrade camera for you. This is not like a second camera. This is an upgrade camera. If you're going to upgrade, you need to get a substantial upgrade. And the M1 Mark III is a substantial upgrade, in my opinion, over the EM10 Mark IV. The M1 Mark II is an upgrade to the OM10 Mark IV, right? EM10 Mark IV. But really, all it's adding is phase detect, right? I think I think all of the EM1 Mark III is one of the best cameras ever made. The IBIS is much better, the autofocus is much better, and certainly the face detect is much better on the EM1 Mark III than the Mark II. And of course, the live ND, the uh, handheld high-res shot mode, these are all features and faster processing. I think these are all substantial upgrades. Also, it has the USB-C port for charging. I can't remember if the M1 Mark II had that or not, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, if your budget doesn't allow for, say, closer to $900, I would still pay $750 for that other EM1 Mark III over the EM1 Mark II. Yeah, shutter. See what I mean? Deals can be found, right? That's a great deal, 1,000 shutter count. But I would still get the Mark III over the Mark II. Using sorry, I was looking at chat. So using HDMI output to record both photos and videos as raw JPEG files would be great. That's interesting. I'm not familiar enough with the HDMI spec if it can transmit data. I assume it can, but I've never seen any application that uses it that way. I mean, it's not my area, right? Using HDMI output for much more than just a clean video feed. But HDMI, as far as I know, it's not used for data, which would be your raw JPEG files. That's an interesting idea. I mean, I know it can transmit data. I just don't know what rate, what it's rated for, if it would be fast enough. But that's an interesting idea. Seems to me if that could have been done, it would have been done because honestly, you can, a lot of laptops now can put video out through the USB-C port. That's how I'm set up here, actually, with my multiple monitors. Uh, my main monitor is going through the USB-C port, not through the HDMI port. And if they could do that in cameras and eliminate the need for uh, HDMI output altogether, the HDMI spec, because I think you could probably get rid of the HDMI um, spec, but I think HDMI also has data encryption or copy protection. And I don't know if USB-C has that sort of natively built in. It would have to be done separately through software. And then, of course, if you do it through software, it can be much more easily hacked versus HDMI, it's all in the hardware, the data, the copy protection, which is easily bypassed, okay? But it's not, it's different, right? Let's see. So I wonder how many people actually shoot video on something other than their cell phone. I never seen someone in real life shooting film on really a camera. Yeah, I know, right? But I'm not really. I know, like every video you see on YouTube, it looks like they're out there with, they have a camera on a gimbal and they're, got lighting. You see all these like really high-end setups. But in real life, I think, yeah, a lot of people just use their phone. Uh, for the most part, for everything, photos and video. But you do see people using real cameras for photos a lot more often than you see them using it for video, if at all. And my chat window jumped all the way up again. Uh, I was talking about the EM1 Mark III. Oh, it's almost time for that auction to end. Let's see where we're at. 42 minutes left. So I was thinking about this one. So this is the S1R with the 24 to 105. I'm thinking if I can get this for 1,500 bucks, I'll do it. I don't know what the shutter count is, but it comes with the lens and it comes with a little 64 gig XD card. And these are not cheap. This is the old Class 8 style, but it's an XQD, which is even older than that. So it looks like it was pretty well used, but it's in very good condition too. So I'm thinking 1,500 bucks. I'm not crazy about the way the seller listed this though. He's a little bit, I don't know. If you read the description on this, uh, the way he writes it, it says, "I do not list shutter counts unless I can easily find. Don't ask or bid and then ask for a shutter count." And then it goes on to say, "Sold as is, no returns, not shipping to China, uh, payment due in 24 hours, no exceptions. My terms and conditions of sale supersedes eBay's terms and conditions," which is absolutely false. But, oops, wrong screen. Listing on eBay, you have to agree to the terms and conditions. You can't just supersede them. You know what I mean? So that in itself is a contradiction in the listing. But I some I'm a little bit anxious about the way he described the product, the terms and conditions, which there's no way that eBay would honor his terms and conditions over their own. Obviously, eBay is going to enforce, as a buyer on eBay, they have to enforce the terms and conditions of the eBay, which are generally protects the seller protects the buyer more so than the seller. Okay. So I got 42 minutes to hang out until I got to go bid on that. Let's see. I gotta find where I left. I didn't realize I was so far behind on the chat. 24. Sorry, I'm just reading. I know it looks like the video froze. I'm really good at standing still because I do all these self-portraits. I can't find where it left off. Oh, here it is. Okay. So there's the HDMI stuff. All right, so we left off somewhere here. People buy cameras based on looks and ergonomics. The M10 capabilities and a Pen F body might be a hit. Um, well, the Pen F is already that, isn't it? It's basically the M10 Mark II with a couple of things from the M5 Mark II in a fancier body. Now, if you could put the OM5 in the Pen F, that would be better. But what they really need to do is put the OM1 inside the Pen F and sell it for the same price. That would be nice. I would pay I would pay $2,300 for a Pen F Mark II if it did everything the OM1 did in a heartbeat. But that's just me. And techniques, yeah. I used to really like that brand. I have one of their receivers somewhere in the basement. And sharing on social media or with family privately is the main thing, so the phone wins out all the time for the majority of society. Yep. And let's see, a lot of talk about the weather here. Gordon says, "Say hi to your mother from all of us." Oh, I should have. What camera does she use? She uses her cell phone. And that $50 camera. Yeah, what did you want to know about that? Did I miss? Maybe that's an answer to what Gordon was asking. The $50. No, she doesn't use this. She would hate this thing. I don't know why. Any adult should not like this camera. I mean, kids like under 12 years old might have fun with it, but no adult would enjoy it. They just better use their phone. Looking for them to come out with a 70 to 200 2.8. Wow, that would be nice. So if you mean a micro four thirds term, a 70 to 200 would be a 140 to 400. That would be an interesting lens. If you mean a 35 to 100, Panasonic has this already. If you're talking about equivalency, but if you're not talking about equivalency, you're talking a straight up 70 to 200 2.8, that would be interesting. I'm thinking about getting the 35 to 100 2.8 because I've done enough events now to pay for it. But I'm so happy with the 40 to 150 kit lens. But the problem with the kit lens is, you know, I'm starting at f4 and on the long end it's at 5.6. So I'm like pretty much two stops darker all the time, and events are always indoor at night, right? Like this event I'm going to is at night for the Christmas one. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I hate using my phone for photography. And most people would System Mature says most people would not be capable or wish to understand cameras are even less uh required by some photographers, videographers. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge learning curve. If you want to get really into all of the features of a camera, all the different techniques in photography, never mind the art of the craft itself, the art of photography, it's huge. It's one of those the more you know, the more you don't know, right? I hope they don't start making cameras with built-in non-removable batteries to please the smartphone. Yeah, that would be a mistake, right? And I think the old Digicam craze shows there's a certain market for dedicated photography, but beginners and kids don't want it to break the bank. Yep. Yeah, people are just looking for toys, right? They just want to play. They're not serious about photography, but they have fun, taking pictures. Samsung realized R&D better spent on phones and dropped out of the game. Yeah, they were making great cameras, but just stopped. And looks like this is a question. Internal HDD plus SD card as backup would be a good idea. I got mixed feelings about that. Uh, on the one hand, electronics are fairly reliable as like an SSD card or like a hard drive in the camera. Um, I don't know why it'd be any less reliable than any of the other electronics in a camera. But that said, um, yeah, why not? If it drives up the cost of the camera, though, to a point that if it adds a couple $100 to the camera, I would say don't do it. But if it gets to where it's kind of a standard, why can't they just put in like 128 gig in a camera, right? Or 64 gig built in. It doesn't have to be a terabyte, but just enough to get you, 40 or 50 pictures out of your camera if you forget to put your memory card in. But if you want a full-on dual backup system built into the camera, then yeah, you're going to need like a terabyte. But I don't think it's a good idea. Dual card slots is better to me than built-in memory. Because I treat my dual card slot just like built-in memory, right? My workflow is, well, all my dual card slot cameras are in the studio, but I never take out both cards. I always leave one card in the camera. I only remove one card and offload the images, then I put that card back in. So the other card slot is dedicated to be backup, right? So to me, having built-in internal memory is, I don't know, it's just no point to it if you have dual card slots. If you want to make the camera smaller and put in a single card slot with internal memory, that makes sense, right? So you have this small camera with built-in memory. I think Leica does that, right? With the M11. But anyway, Hasselblad does that. They got a terabyte internal. But if you're trying to make the camera as small as possible and only have one card slot, then maybe. But if you have dual card slots, I'd rather have that workflow where one card slot is always in the camera, never comes out, and is used for backup only. And the reason I feel manufacturers will compete with phones is because they want to draw in new users to the camera industry. They don't want that introduction to be blown out on the price difference. That's still a tough call. I don't I don't feel like camera manufacturers are trying to compete with cell phones because otherwise we would have a lot more compact digital cameras with fixed lenses, and there's not many. And low actuation is like 35K. That's not bad. 35K on a pro camera is not bad. So I have an old Canon SL2 that I pull out every so often. Love it. I think it sells used for a few hundred with a kit lens. Yeah, old cameras are great. This Nikon DF is really old, and I still love it. My Sony NEX sitting on the shelf back there is still works great. It takes great pictures. I rarely pull it out though. I think I've pulled it out maybe once in the last 5 years. And my first and only camera is the Canon SL2. Oh, yeah, okay, SL2. It has more capabilities than the operator. It has all the features that you have mentioned. Thanks for your observations. Yeah. Yeah, the SL2 is a really small Canon DSLR, so it has a, optical viewfinder, EFS interchangeable lenses, flip out screen, does everything well. Yeah, and it has the dual pixel autofocus. Now the 4K video is a little bit weak on that camera, but the photography side of it, it does everything you'd want in a very small compact package. 5D is a unique image. You'll have to post some on your Flickr or something, Wayne, because I know you bought a 5D, right? So I don't know. I have to check out. If you post anything, send me a message and let me know that you posted some images from that. I'd love to see them. Rob, what's your opinion of the best camera to shoot video under $1,000? Ooh, if we're talking brand new, wow. I mean, my mind immediately goes to a Sony for the autofocus. So if you need good autofocus, it has to be a Sony camera. So any of their APS-C models. So the A6100, A6400, the A6600, probably the A6600. It's probably the best video camera under $1,000 with good autofocus. If you don't care about autofocus, uh, you can get a GH6 for under $1,000 right now. That's going to be the very best. Or the well, that's not under 1,000, but I think that's it. Canon, I'm trying to think. Canon R50, but the lenses are really pricey. I mean, they have the kit lenses, and they have a couple of nice primes. Autofocus is decent. So like a Canon R50 maybe. And on the Panasonic side, what do they have? They have the G9's over 1,000. I mean the G9 Mark II. Really, it's the GH6, which I see for under $1,000 all day long. That's probably your very best bet, and probably the very best if you don't care about autofocus. Uh, Although it wasn't bad, if I recall, I watched Emily's video, Micro Four Nerds. The autofocus looked really good on the GH6 actually, but uh, so I'm not really the best person to ask. But I would say GH6 or A6600. A6600. The problem with it is the rolling shutter, right? And but the lenses are cheap and widely available, and they're pretty good. Even their 16 to 50 kit lens is pretty good for video. OM Systems just is not a video camera. I have no idea what an AZ528 is. What is that? Kodak AZ528. Oh, it's a little bridge camera. It's this guy. Okay, let's look at a brand new one. 16 megapixel, 52x zoom, 1080p Wi-Fi. Yep, I got a Fujifilm just like this. I should take it out more. Okay, I think a D600 for stills is better than a 6D, but for video, sucks. But video sucks in a D600. That's interesting, but the D600 had the sensor spot problems, right? So that's why I don't really steer people towards the D600. Even the D610, which supposedly fixed it, didn't. People were still having problems with sensor spots. And Roger says, "Thanks, Rob. I have to re-listen with my notepad for all those models." Oh, okay. I forget what we were talking about, but happy to help. And also, the camera won't interrupt with calls, message. Yeah, I know, right? Phones are a pain. If you're trying to do things, there's always things popping up on it. And wish me luck, folks. On Wednesday, I'll take my old Realcam GX7 with stuck battery to the shop in hopes they can help me. Sure wouldn't have happened with a phone. I know, right? That sucks. But good luck. And all system lenses are either good or excellent. I'm currently using the 41-52.8 with 1.4 TC and the Lumix G9 Mark II with good results. Yeah, that's a great combination. The 1.4 TC is really good with all the lenses it works with, which is that one and the 300 f4. Uh, yeah, most responses I hear is, "Why do I need a camera? I have my phone." Yeah, well, like I said, there's people that think they're going to get better results with a real camera. Those are the people that are like, "Yeah, I don't want to use my phone. I want to get better video and audio. So I'm going to get a real camera." And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not really any better because their lighting sucks and they're not using external mics. Oh yeah, hey Clint. Yeah, we were just looking at that. Um, yeah, I have that on my watch list already. As you saw, like I don't know, 15 minutes ago. And Linus says, "I really like Marcus' picks, even though I don't use artificial light." Yeah, Marcus is great. He's always out there just cranking out all kinds of videos in just a very practical, pragmatic way, right? Uh, he's and obviously there's no motivation for him, as far as I can see, for him to do these videos. There's no financial reason. I think he just loves creating videos and trying to help people with lighting because he ends up giving stuff that he doesn't use away, apparently. And if you're trying to make money, you're not doing it by giving your stuff away. uh, yeah, I really like his channel. I do. He does a great job, and I haven't seen really any advice that he's given that was terrible. All his advice seems very good. Time to time I'll see some minor things that are wouldn't don't really matter. But there's some little minor things time to time that I'm like, "Oh, he's a little bit off on that." But ultimately, it doesn't matter. What his message that he's trying to convey is correct. Uh, whatever it is he's doing, whether it's cameras or lighting, audio, sound, microphones, whatever he conveys, the core message is probably 99% correct. And there's 1% every now and then. If you want to nitpick, or if you're a keyboard jockey, you can jump in there and give him a hard time about. But you're just wasting your breath. Because if you're one of those kind of people that look at that 1% and say you're wrong on that one thing, you know, you're not getting the point of his channel and what he's trying to share and what he's trying to do. But yeah, Marcus Picks, I would give him A+ rating, 100%. Watch his channel. If you're into lighting, into audio, he has a lot of great content from the past, different kinds of lighting modifiers. Um, yeah, he's amazing. He really is something. And he works so hard at it. You can tell he loves it. He loves it. Wish my phone had an EVF, right? I know, right? I meant Canon G7X. Yeah, I know what you meant. The Canon G7X. That I get confused too. I got a little confused today, G7X, GX7, but yeah, I know which camera you're talking about. Uh, Condensation on the lens. Not sure what that's in reference to. Unfortunately, I can't currently use the screen, only the EVF. I'm getting there myself, man. It's getting harder and harder. I find myself carrying these more often with me now when I go out and do photography. Because I do want to use the back screen sometimes because I'm on a tripod a lot, and it's just easier to use the back screen than to get my eye down there and do things. So, do you also use a drone for high angle shots? I do not. Where I live, drones are pretty much banned. So, you know, due to airspace, right? I have like three major airports and Air Force base all within 50 square miles of where I live. So I can't. I use a pole. I have like a 20-foot pole that I use. Yes, system, same here. When I use back screen, I'm also saying a prayer. Yep. And Shri is here. How you doing, Shri? The base switch lens grip features a 20 megapixel large CMOS sensor. The specific sensor is a Sony IMX283, which is the switch lens camera grip. That must be some other camera.
Someone was detected at your porch.
I'm not familiar with the switch lens. I simply tell people that want food photography that I'm 60 per hour, minimum 2 hours, and they get 10 images with 4 to 8 hours. Wow, that's cheap. But that's food photography, but that's cheap. 60 bucks an hour. There was a time when I tried to work out where I would make at least $50 an hour, but that was years ago. I'm trying to maintain $100 an hour minimum for my time. Doesn't always work out that way. Like I have a 3 hour job. This is a different one. A 3 hour job. I'm going to spend about 3 hours. Maybe let's say I spend 8 hours total, including driving time, shooting time, editing, and deliver. Right, 8 hours, and I charged 850. So I'm making a little over $100 an hour on that job, and that's still too cheap. Uh, Considering that I think the quality of my work is really good. I mean, the pictures I showed you were not good examples uh, of that last photo job because the place was a train wreck. It's like it was a working business, so everything was just cluttered everywhere. But I think I'm worth more than $100 an hour when I do a photo job. But I try to do at least 100, including everything, right? Driving time, so a day rate, $800. But I need to up that to 1,000 or 1,200. I really should have charged 1,200 for that job. It's 3 hours on site, 3 to 4 hours on site, about an hour of driving, and 3 to 4 hours of editing. I should have charged at least 1,200. I definitely by next year I'm gonna be at 1,200 bucks for my day rate, which is still cheap for what I do, I think. And band photography is based on I like the band 35 an hour on site of the show, 60 bucks for about 25 images, and special edits are $60 per edit. Wow. Wow. I couldn't do it for less than $100 an hour. I would have a hard time. Um, Man. I mean, I don't know what the band photography market is like, right? I mean, maybe that's the going rate. Like where I live, it's very competitive, so I have to suppress my prices a little more than I would like to because there is a lot of competition. So my hobby is photography, and now more rain is promised a year, and bird life in Denmark has 40. Oh, wow. 40% disappeared. Must find a new hobby. Man, stop buying all the cameras you see. I can't help it. I'm addicted. Since I would have to pay the client customer, nobody would pay me for my substandard photo. You're funny. Your stuff is good. I've seen a couple of your things, I think. It says, yeah, I dropped my LX3 on its lens recently and it's a goner. Turns on but won't take pictures. Nice paperweight now. Oh, that's the rough. LX3 is a nice little camera. So I use the DJI Pocket 2 for all my vlogs these days. Yeah, that's a great camera. It's just wide enough, right? My DJI One is a little bit too narrow, and the mic thing is perfect. They fixed. I was thinking about upgrading to the DJI 2. I don't know if I want to spend the money for a DJI 3, but then I don't use the DJI One. I switched to just using a Insta360. If I were, what I bought one of those little ones. Um, it's an Insta360, but it's really tiny. And Rob, your Amazon shop, I need good cleaning cloths for a lens and something to remove slime after a slug. Okay. Um, I did see some deals on cleaning cloths, but I didn't put them on there. Uh, but I'll look. I'll look. I'll put some on after the stream. Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's some red flags with that seller, so I'm a little bit. I don't think I'll bid on it. I was kind of watching it, but yeah, I'm a little bit because his rating is like 97%, right? Which is a red flag. I like 99 plus. 99 plus if not 100%. And all of those, the way he wrote it, the language, I mean, I get it. It's sometimes the tone in the text is hard to interpret, right? Because the tone of the text, the way the tone of his texting or his description was a little bit worrisome or troublesome to me. But I don't know, I try to take that with a grain of salt. I'm like, sometimes it's difficult to uh, express your tone in when you're typing out text, right? People can take it the wrong way. So I try not to put too much weight on that, but yeah, there's some red flags. Yeah, don't buy it. I think I'm gonna go with you, Roger, and just not get it. And then yeah, Gray Van Zenith says sounds sketchy as heck, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't think anyone else has bid on it. Let me check. Yeah, nobody. It's 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left on the on here. Nobody else has bid. I mean, I'm sure it's a legit auction, and 6 months. Fairly positive feedback. Item received not as described. Return case was open. Seller violated return policy and failed to provide return shipping label. Seller abused and refuses to issue repaid. So this is a conflict, right? With but for the most part, the reviews are pretty decent. So I don't want to knock him. I think the reviews are fairly decent. So I don't know. We'll see. At 1,100 bucks, I would definitely take the risk. At 1,500, I think I can wait. I'd rather pay a little more and get a better and have a little more confidence. Marcia says, "Stay away." Wow, everybody's saying just forget it. Okay. All right, we'll forget it. I'm not going to buy it.
Someone was detected at your porch.
And then Sydney, I never buy camera or lens on eBay. Better to pay more through a reputed dealer and get a 6-month warranty. Yeah, I would say that's the safest way. But when I was shopping for this lens, uh, for less than 200 bucks, this is not a major purchase, right? It was less than $200 and the seller had really good feedback. 100%, I think it was, or 99.9. It was really good. So I took the chance on this, right? But this is not a high ticket item like an S1R where it's like I'll probably end up paying with taxes and shipping like 1800 bucks. Something like that I would definitely, but little things like that I'll buy. I'll take a little more risk. And Jeff says, I always buy used kit through a reputable dealer. The pricing is often better than eBay, and you normally get 6 months or a year's warranty. Yeah, I didn't find that with this particular lens. So, for example, let's do Nikon 24 to 85 AFS VRG, right? So here's a reputable dealer, 300 bucks, good condition. 496. I guarantee this is used also, right? Let's see. Uh in stock. Oh no, this is brand new. Looks like. Adorama has one. That's the VR. That's a good price actually. What's the condition? Condition is average. Uh so this is what I'm looking at, right? So if I want one in excellent condition, this is what I was finding most of the time is that this lens, this was good condition. This one is probably a little better. This lens is selling used right in this price range, 300 to 360. And I got it for less than 200 on eBay for mint condition. So that's why I kind of went with the eBay one. Again, it's not a high ticket item. The higher ticket items I would consider. What you guys are saying is pretty much the truth, but and from a historical viewpoint, do you think we will have much archival images due to the fact that most people shoot, share, and delete images on phones? Who knows? I mean, a lot of the images are private, right? Going onto their own personal cloud, and when they eventually stop using that service or pass away, uh, I assume the cloud account just gets deleted with all the images and video. I don't know. But I think a photography that's more important will get preserved, right? It's either going to be published in a book or archived in some way. Most of the photography, like Vivian Mayer, is was one of those cases where someone might have just as easily thrown away all those negatives, right? Because I think the story is that somebody bought a case of negatives and prints like in a box for like $100 or some ridiculously low price. And then turns out she was her photography was amazing for the most part. So even before we went digital, right? There's millions and millions of photos lost forever. So with the rare exceptions, I think it's fine. Nobody needs to see everybody's photos from 100 years ago or 100 years in the future. Who wants to look at the photos that we took today? Other than the ones that were deliberately archived and saved, right? Which I think there's enough of that going on that we don't have to worry. So from a historical perspective, I don't think there's going to be any issue. If in 1,000 years somebody wants to look at the photography from today, There's going to be more than enough in the archives that were deliberately saved, either in print or, like physical print or on the cloud, whatever, digitally. There'll be more than enough. So I would love to know the percentage of people that have real cams but shoot in auto mode only seems to defeat the purpose. Not necessarily. I think shooting in auto is fine. You're going to get better image quality than a cell phone, generally speaking. Uh, but if you want to take control of the camera and be more creative, certainly, uh, if that's the purpose of the camera is to do the art and craft of photography, yeah, shooting in auto is not going to cut it. But I think for a lot of people, you take a really good camera, you know, OM10, or S1R, whatever, A7R5. Put those in auto and take pictures. You'll get really nice pictures out of them for the most part in full auto mode. But if you want to get into the art and craft of photography and really take control over your storytelling, your compositions, the lighting, then yeah, having a really nice camera like that is defeating the purpose. And it says, I agree with you. Dual slots for SD cards is enough. Back them up with each shoot on a computer, which itself is backed up. Yeah. Like I said, if you have a workflow, like that's my workflow, right? Is I take one card out, back it up to my computer, and I don't erase the card in the camera. I leave it until it gets full, and then I erase it. But only after I'm sure everything's been backed up on my computer. So I always have a backup on my computer. My computer is backed up on an external hard drive separately. And then I have the SD card in the camera that has basically a backup of all my recent shoots. Um, and I can only think of one time where I really had to go back to the second SD card on my camera. I forget why now, but um, so I bought my niece a pink 9 megapixel Samsung Digicam. She loves it. Got her to stop using her phone. I think she liked dedicated camera. Yeah. Yeah, there's something about just using something that's only for photos, right? Says, yes, I have the 5D and the 5D too. Right, right. Um, so I was shooting in 70 when I picked up MFT years ago. Yeah, David Crooks was the same way. He was shooting a 7D Mark II and switched over to the EM1 Mark III, I believe. And the Gray Vanzini says, I use my old Canon M cams for video, but I don't do serious video. It's kind of what my Fuji's been regulated to. My XH2, I'm using it for video right now for I got to do a review here soon. Since I don't actually take it out and use it for photography, I just put it on a tripod in the studio with the mics and lighting and all that, and the remote triggers all set up. So I just sit down and start recording. And it's too heavy to use here in this studio. It's killing me that I'm using my EM5 Mark III for a webcam. It's just breaking my heart because that camera is so much more than a webcam. And Simmons said, "Oh, system camera, not really for video, although I've done some good footage at 60 FPS. However, Lumix is great for video, currently shooting 240p." Yeah. Yeah, Lumix is the bomb. Lumix is the best for video, hands down. I think regardless of sensor size. It's just the price point I think we were talking about earlier, under $1,000. Uh, yeah, it's a tough call. I think you have to go to the GH6 to get, hands down the best video. And condensation on the lens was about the orb photographer. Oh, I don't think it was condensation because that would be more of a foggy type circle, right? And it would be translucent. but the lines in the orb were symmetrical, and I don't think and it had a I'm not saying it wasn't some sort of lens flare or reflection on the camera itself, 'cause it might be one of the electronics or the aperture blade or something, but I don't see how the way that because I just could not rule out I can't rule out completely what you're saying, but having looked at probably millions of images in photography and seeing all different kinds of lens anomalies, this was not one of them. Okay, this was very, very unique. Because I've seen condensation, I've seen, all kinds of lens flare, I've seen reflections. Uh, I feel like I've seen it all when it comes to problems with images. This did not look like a problem, so to speak, in the camera. This looked like it actually captured something kind of weird. And I think it's ironic that we're going crazy with megapixel counts, and 90% of people look at it's done on a 7-inch screen. Yeah. There are photographers and there's Rob Trick. If you need a high quality results, only one choice. You're too kind. I do okay. I think I get paid what I'm worth at least. A little less than what I think I'm worth actually, but you're getting definitely your money's worth if you hire me, I think. For the kind of work that I do anyway. Um Says, I agree about the light. I'm now using 4 different lighting systems for outdoor wildlife photos and video. Yeah, lighting is key. The Go 3. Thank you, David. That's what I have. I have the little Go 3. Uh, it's in it's in one of my bags over here. I just don't vlog enough to really need much more than that. And run a mile from that eBay camera. Okay, done. It might be auctioning right now. Let's see. Uh, where is it? Over here. No, no, let's not leave that. Let's go. Oh, it's sold. All right, let's see what we got. What it sold for. 1,600 final price, and $25 to ship, and another $80. So a little over 1,700 bucks. That's a tough call. That's a good deal, but without knowing, the shutter count, because all the images look really good. If you close up on it, everything looks pretty much brand new. But that's about what I was thinking about bidding. Let's see how it went. Wow, this guy bought it. Do they let you see who the buyer is? No. This buyer this buyer has 220. So this guy's a professional buyer. Man, he's either a seller or a professional buyer. When you got that high, that many number of feedback, you're not kidding around. You're like a hardcore serious eBay person. Well, good luck, whoever you are. Hopefully, hopefully you get it. $200 mint. Wow. Yeah, that's about right. If you're talking about eBay, if you're talking about like a dealer, That's really a good deal. If that's a dealer price with like a 6-month warranty or something, that's a really good price. But for eBay, that's about the going rate. I mean, I know that 200 converts to if you're talking about pounds, that converts to like 250 bucks, but that's still a good deal. See, my phone has a 103 megapixel camera on it. I think I've seen that phone somewhere. Camera Conspiracies might have done that. Buy now, cry later. No, I missed it. I'm not too unhappy though. There are times when I really hate myself for not getting something at a good deal. Somebody had the Panasonic S1R for $1,000. It had a shutter count of like 18. It had a reasonable shutter count, like it was pretty low. So it's basically mint condition for $1,000 from somebody on Fred Miranda that's sort of trusted. I should have got it. I should have got it when I had the chance. $1,000 for an S1R in the condition that they had it in, but it's gone now. I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to wait for another deal. There's one now for $1,800 from a seller that I think will be okay. Uh, it's this one here, 1839, $17 to ship, right? So add another 100 bucks. So I'd be like about $1,950 to get this. But look at this. Shutter count is 691. This is basically new in the box. Because, a camera always has a couple hundred counts on the shutter. And the sale ends today, 13 hours. They might have to relist it. I'm really tempted to get this, but I really don't need this lens. I mean, it's a good lens, but I'd rather get a couple of small primes with this camera. I would rarely use this lens because that lens is basically for like doing if you want to do event photography and stuff with it. That lens makes a lot more sense. But I would be using it just like going out and doing photo walks and things. I wouldn't be using it. I'm going to use my OM1 for my events photography. And hi, Rob. I got lucky and bought several $100s of lenses for $30 on the marketplace, and the seller bought the lens new and seldom used it, basically brand new. Wow. I got to try the marketplace one time. My sister keeps telling me it's the bomb, but I, I don't know how to use it. I guess it's the same. You just search for stuff, right? But I've never really gone on to the marketplace. When I'm in a pinch, walking the dog leash in one hand, I sometimes shoot auto mode P or even scenes, sports for moving. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the auto modes are fine on most cameras. I mean, ask Matty Salanto. He shoots in auto mode all the time. So I don't even have Nikon, and I'm looking at the 24 to 35 Nikkor. Rob's addiction is, I know, right? So me too, but I've got the Nikon. It's a 24 to 85. Yeah, it's a great lens. I remember wanting that lens back when I was shooting Nikon all the time. Uh, but when I got into Micro Four Thirds, I I stopped buying Nikon altogether and went all in on Micro Four Thirds. And now I think I got this lens and I got the 35 f2 and I got a 62.8 macro. I think I'm done. Uh, the only other lens I might consider is the 70 to 200 f4. I used to have that lens, but I sold it when I got out of shooting Nikon. but I don't see the point. The Nikon DF ain't gonna cut it with a 70-200 f4 because that's more of a sports action lens. Uh, the DF, the autofocusing is not great. I mean, it works fine, but it's too centered. I'd rather have. I like the full screen, like the focus points to cover the entire area. Being all in the center like that is a little rough. Even with these wider lenses, But if I was shooting with more telephoto, I'd probably, yeah. That's the only thing about the DF that and my other Nikon DSLRs, or most DSLRs for that matter, is all the focus points are right in the center. Rumors of Nikon RF floating around. A Nikon RF? Wow. What would that be? A rangefinder? That would be interesting. Yeah, the important bidding. Yeah, I know. I use auction sniper that I put the bid in and it automatically increments and stuff for me. So Ravi says, not without reason, I call Rob our friendly neighborhood pro photographer, be it gear advice or photo editing tips. One can learn a lot here. And now he has added his budget shopping tips as well. I try. I'm just a guy with a camera, just hanging out. Um, would I buy a red Komodo? I have no idea what that is. So I guess the answer is no. But let me look. What's a red Komodo? Oh, that's a freaking camera. Yeah, no way. My God, these things are expensive. I do so little video as it is. I just don't have a need for it. Between Red, Ari, and Sony, which would you go for first? I cannot answer that question. I'm sorry. The only guidance I think, the only thing I would say is look at the look at the file format output of whatever these cameras are, and find the one that has the uh, and I don't mean image quality. I assume all of these are going to be very good image quality, but your overall buying decision is going to still be based on what can I get the lenses for, and what is the codec or output that these cameras have. How is the editing going to be in post processing, right? Because with video, what I keep hearing is this camera outputs, say, 16-bit raw, 14-bit raw, 422. So you want to look at things like, does it output 422 10-bit, or does it output 444 16-bit? All of these kind of specs and codecs. And if you're into videography, you know what all that means. It's a little bit beyond me what all of that is exactly. But the higher the number, the better, right? And what your needs are. So do you really need what these cameras have to offer, say, over, say, a GH7? But if you're thinking about these kind of cameras, these are high-end video cameras, and those, you would shop them just like you would any other cameras, I would assume. You know, look at look at look at what kind of features it has so that you can expand the capabilities of the camera itself. Right? Like on a regular camera, does it have a real hot shoe? Does it have a PC sync cord? Does it have dual card slots? Things like that, right? So you look for all the features that each camera has and things that you would need so that you can expand the capabilities. Look at the codec output that it has. I think Ari and Red are pretty standard. All three of these companies are gonna have standard outputs, but I don't know. Uh, so yeah, also consider how you're gonna grade the footage when you get it out of the camera, what format it has. But if all things being equal, um, then I would just shop on price. But I don't know enough about it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wesley. I wish I could give you a better answer. I think you asked me about like a shopping cart or a cart last week, right? If that wasn't you, it's okay. But uh, somebody asked me for one of those carts that have wheels on it. It was like on sale for $62. It's back up to $95 now. So hopefully you got it while it was on sale. Yeah, when I pause sometimes it looks like the screen is frozen. I should put a little fan or something in the background that's moving so you guys know that the video is still going. Either that or I need to stop pausing. So watch out on Marketplace, particularly as someone says they are selling Sony A7 III for practically nothing. And all you have to do is deliver money. Most of those, yeah. I know, I see a lot of scams, definitely. Even if it's close, right? Like let's say I was looking at the Panasonic LX100 Mark II. And I just type it in eBay and I'll see prices for like $300-400. So it's not like ridiculously low. It's the kind of price that's so low that maybe they don't know that they're selling it for too cheap, right? So you're thinking maybe the sellers, just doesn't know the camera's worth more. But then it's like it's right on the cusp of being this could be a scam. Like they're looking for people that are trying to find a deal and they're going to take advantage of them. I don't know. So waiting for my next paycheck to go for the 150 to 600. Then I'm done. I've run out of gas. I seriously doubt it. It's never over. But the 150 to 600 is on sale now through the end of the month for 23.99 brand new. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some used now, but 23.99, that's a good deal for that lens. Considering it came out at 2,800 bucks, right? You can get it for like 400 bucks off now. The red Komodo, very big angry monitor lizard. Great Van Zena says, yes, a rangefinder. That would be cool with the thing. And Steven says, I've been out. Man, it's been almost 3 hours. So I've been out today taking pictures with my EMP1 and 50 millimeter 1.8 lens. I really enjoyed using it as a change from the modern OM system. Yeah. So I assume you mean you adapted the old Mzuiko, right? Analog 50 millimeter lens. That's really a great lens. And yes, Rob Trek Wesley Curry. For me, if I had the money, I would probably go for the S4K Ember since the 800 frames per second is great for my slow motion. Wow. See, you guys, that's way, way out of my comfort zone. Yes, I asked about the cart. You were very helpful. Happy to have found your show. Oh, good. I'm glad. Hopefully you got it. Hopefully you got the deal on it because I checked it like yesterday because I look at things every day, right? And I had to take it off my daily deals pick because it wasn't on sale anymore. Looks like a lot of prices are being bumped up a bit in the last couple of weeks in preparation to lower them to the regular prices during Black Friday. Yes, uh, that is a common practice, right? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating, well, it was in my last stream, my shopping stream. I was so mad at OM Systems for telling me that the sales were going to end on September 1st. And then come September 2nd, they moved the date to September 30. That's just not right. If you're going to have a sale on something, you need to end it when you say you're going to end it. Don't lead people on to force everybody to buy by the first date you set, and then, at least wait 30 frickin' days before you put them on sale again. I mean, I'm sure people that were looking for that and missed the September 1st deadline were very grateful. But as someone that is an influencer, so to speak, I'm here trying to find people good deals. And I'm like shouting out, people, this deal ends tomorrow. If you want this, get it now. That makes me look really bad when the very next day you extend it to September 30. That's just not right. And that goes to bumping the price up gradually, right? And then saying it's 50% off. Like I was looking at something where it was selling for let's say $200 for the last several months. And then they have a coupon for 50% off, so now it's selling for $100. So I'm like, "Oh, great. I'm going to advertise this. This looks like a great deal. It's 50% off. It's got good reviews. $100." And then a week later, they lower the price down to $100 without a coupon. And now that is the price of that product. And I'm like, so I'm like telling everybody this is such a great deal, 50 bucks or 100, 50% off, when in truth all they're doing is lowering the price to what they want to sell it for because they weren't selling any at 200. I don't know. It's a learning process for me as well, right? Trying to find people good deals or trying to find good deals for myself even where you find they raise prices before they lower them, they give you coupons, and then the next day they lower the price anyway. Um, Time to time, there will be super, super good deals. A lot of the things I list on my shopping site are good deals in of themselves, regardless of whatever marketing tactic they put to get you to buy it. Ultimately, I think everything I put on my store is a good deal. But what makes it hard or frustrating or makes me angry is when they do stuff like what we just talked about. And I have to rethink how I'm going to tell people that this is a good deal. Because like when the canvas bag was for sale for 50% off, it was for $25. That bag is freaking awesome for $25. That bag to me is worth $100. That was such a good deal, and it has not come down to that price since I originally started telling people, buy this bag now. If you want a canvas bag, buy this now. Because 25 bucks, man, that is nothing for this bag. And if people go look for that bag now, it's back up to $40. Some of them are 50, but $40 for the same exact one in that color. We're only talking, I think the bag's a good deal at $40, but I felt really good telling people this is $25. It's like, yeah, you got to get this. This is a great deal. I felt really good about that. But man, uh, when OM Systems extends the date and I'm telling people this is a good deal, get it now, this is the last day, and then it's not, that's wrong, right? That's not cool, as they would say. That's not cool, man. That's to people like me that are trying to promote, influence, whatever you want to call it, people to buy your products. You don't do that to us, okay? Because now if it's a good deal, I'll post it. I'll say, okay, this is a good deal. But it's going to be hard for me to go out again and say, this is the last day. Because now I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the last day you can buy it. But it makes me look like I'm trying to get you to buy something because it's not going to be on sale tomorrow. I don't like that, you know? Ah, all right, you get your bag this week. Awesome. I assume you got the canvas bag. It's so good. Rob, have you ever used a shoe light meter? Yes, I have. And is it worth it, or is just an app great handheld? I like the shoe light meters because you have the camera in your hand already, and you can just look at the meter. I like that rather than you know having to set your camera aside so you can So in terms of workflow, I like the handheld meter or the shoe mount meter rather than using a phone. Now, the phone certainly as an app is going to give you some more flexibility with settings and things and how you want to adjust things. Uh, but generally, using the shoe mount meter with a film camera anyway, so you don't need to get that complicated. Set your shutter and aperture based on what that meter says, and you'll get close enough exposure that can be easily adjusted during the processing, right? So, yeah, I much prefer those. And I reviewed one from Hori, but I assume all of them are going to work well, right? But I bought one from Hori that works pretty well. It's very small and fairly accurate. There was about a one-stop difference in some exposures than others, but again, with film, you know how film is. Film is very flexible. So one-stop difference between what my digital camera was saying and what the little pocket meter was saying is not a big deal in the scheme of things. Gray Vancini is like alcohol. 100 cameras is not enough, and one is too many, or whatever the saying is. Yeah, I know where you're going with that. And oh yeah, I've been tracking Canon RF14 to 35 f4L was lower 2 weeks ago by $200. Now it's up to regular price and prep for drop in November. Yeah, yeah, I remember that. This same exact lens came up in another conversation. I don't know if it was here in a stream or somewhere else, but it was probably in one of my streams. That's the guy. I don't talk to anybody except you guys, other than the photo club once in a while. So I've been using this Olympus Epion with a neck strap because it's the screen only. It would be better with a wrist strap instead. Any recommendations? Uh, I'm not a fan of wrist straps. So I can tell you I have used the one from Peak Design. Uh, that was fairly comfortable, but it's like I think with an EP1, you don't need something so elaborate like the Peak Design. You can just use the regular nylon rope type. So let me just go to my store. There might be one on sale right now. This one. So with the strap, uh, the most important thing here is you see this ring and you see this leather part. This helps protect the camera from getting scratched by the ring here. So if you buy a wrist strap, this little leather cover is very important in protecting the camera from scratches. The other thing is you see this little loop here? This loop is so you can adjust it, right? So you slide this loop up and down to adjust to the size of your wrist. Uh, so something like this is fine. They're using it. See how this leather protects it right here? So this is like a $9 strap. Let's see if they say anything else. It's microfiber leather and nylon, and there's a bunch of other ones. This is more similar to the Peak Design style. I didn't care for this how thick that is. I found that to be kind of uncomfortable and restricting. So what would happen is I would have the camera in my hand, but then when I wanted to move my hand up or it just felt very restricting and I couldn't access all of the buttons on the camera because the strap was holding my hand too tight to the camera. Versus if you have the nylon cord just going around your wrist, your hand is completely free to move around. But with when the strap is covering, like the Peak Design that I had to keep the strap loose enough so that I could move my hand around the camera. I was using it on my D7100, I had to keep my hand loose enough to move around the camera. But then when it's that loose, it doesn't feel secure. It feels like the camera's just going to fall out of my hand. So I think a nylon strap is a better way to go, particularly with the EPL7. But for the reasons of handling the camera, you don't have to keep it so tight on you so that it feels secure, but then you can't move your hand around. So, but the nylon strap, uh, resolves all of those issues. And again, make sure that the metal ring is protected by that leather cover. Those are the things I would look for uh, in a wrist strap. But I'm more of a neck strap guy anyway. Yeah, TT Artisans had a similar meter. Yep. John follows us here. I was a bit miffed that the canvas bag you talked about was not at your US price. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I look at the UK site time to time, but my brain is just not wired for that currency. So when I see something on sale, it doesn't I just don't know. I don't have a feeling for if it's really a great deal or not. I guess if I keep looking at it, I'll start to get a feel for it, but it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, unfortunately, for now. Uh, I also bought the Voigtlander meter, but wow, the price. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I've bought a couple of those shoe mount meters, and they've all been very good. Um, the one I got from Hori is very compact, though. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Where's my button here? I think I have it mounted to my camera, but this is the one I have, but I have the silver one. Um, I didn't get very good reviews. The key switch button dysfunction. Other than that, other than that one bad review, it looks pretty good. I don't know. I haven't used mine a lot, but I've used it time to time. Yeah, I have the silver one. And I think where is it? I had it on my camera right here. Oh crap. I don't know where I put it. I haven't used it in a while. But I have it on I think it's on my camera in the studio. But I wasn't really using it. But it charges via USB-C and it works pretty well. I have a video on this. So if you search my channel for the video, you'll find it. And there's also a Kex EM01, okay. Okay, I think I'll end it here. I'm getting kind of hungry and it's almost 3 hours on a stream. I got other things I have to do today. I guess I got to help my mom with this what she called me about. Uh, but okay, everyone, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy the streams, of course, you can always buy me a coffee or send a small donation. The links below. I'll be back on Tuesday with my shopping stream where we're going to shop for deals together and see what I have bought a couple of things since then that I'll share with you as well that have come in. Um, that I got relatively cheap. Um, so we'll talk about that. But again, you guys have been awesome as always. It's always a lot of fun to hang out with you. I always look forward to it on my Sundays to chat with you guys and talk to you about photography. So thanks for being here. And we'll see you again soon.